Well, overly prepared here. Welcome everybody to the fourth annual Grid Summit. Welcome back. This is the Creating Creators Character versus Character Screenplay workshop. We're going to mainly focus on trying to create a scene together today. And before we get into that, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Creating Creators. And we also have on the call, which I think he just jumped to the audience, but the other co-founder and COO, Polo Munoz of Creating Creators. And our job, oh, there he is. Hi, Polo.
If I jumped, I don't know how I jumped. There you go. Welcome to.
I'm pinned, but yeah.
Okay. Great.
We are a company that brings professional filmmakers into classrooms, and we help develop film pathways from grades 4th all the way to 12th grade, bringing the film industry into classrooms to help support ELA, ELD, and CT, and also SEL skills in the classroom. So we would like to play a little video for you guys just to get to know Creating Creators, and then we're going to get right into our workshop. Here we go.
I am an assistant director and a director.
I am an editor.
I am a teacher of film and English.
I am an actor.
I love to read stories to the kids every Saturday.
I'm an actress.
I am.
I'm a producer and I help my group finish what we have to do. I first thought that film was going to be easy, just taking a camera, filming other people, and just putting it in. But I learned that it isn't that easy. You have to be creative with the editing. Actually think of your shots. Think of your script.
I'm not getting used to be writing, working hard.
It got me with better grades and writing. It opens up careers.
Working in a group is pretty hard because some kids won't really listen to you. You have to put pressure on them, but if they don't understand, just stop and think for a minute. How can I help them? Let's understand their feelings. So we finish the movie and not fail our mission that we try to do.
All right, so that's Creating Creators. Myself and Mr. Polo, who are on the call today, we've worked on numerous film sets. I've worked as an actress since I was young in the film and TV industry. And also I was an editor with Miramax for a while and worked in pre-production on scripts and screenplays for another production company. So myself and Mr. Polo also worked within PBS production. He's done his own productions for different companies, and he and I have hired numerous filmmakers that have contributed in many ways to lots of projects that students learn on and get access to film sets. So with that being said, one of the most important things that we teach, and every single filmmaker will tell you, nothing happens unless there is word on the page. So today we need to make sure that we come up with a pretty strong story and a script. And from that script, we're going to develop a short scene that we will talk briefly about how you would film that scene, and then bring it into a couple of different editing softwares that you can do at home using a Chromebook. So here we go. All right. So basically, here's our checklist, okay? We have to come up with a location. First thing that comes to mind. Then we have to think of 2 characters. We're going to try to keep it to 2 because you'll see in a scene having a back and forth banter or something of this style will probably be the most effective. And anybody watching TV nowadays doesn't want to watch something that's just pretty boring, right? You want to up the stakes, or you want to have a conflict. Conflict allows for drama to develop, and that allows for us to kind of see the non-day every day. We get to see something that develops and resolves within the scene. So having a strong, defined conflict between the 2 characters, that's going to help us get through the motive and what happens in the scene, okay? So we're going to come up with our conflict between the 2 characters. And then we're going to write that conversation out. And sometimes it's easier if you start from a place that you know. So if you know of a character already in your head, that's going to help a lot, because you may understand them better and why they make their decisions. And that's why we want to think also about a conversation we've had before in the past that might drum up our memory to come up with a character that we can use for this workshop. So we're going to write a conversation around the conflict between those two characters in our script. And then we are going to talk a little bit about some of the key shots that we would get to film this, very simply. So if we have two characters in a location, one singular location, from a beginning, middle, and end of a scene, the beginning of the scene has to establish the location. So we would have either an establishing shot of the whole room, or we would have a shot of the outside of a school if it's taking place in a classroom, and or if it's taking place in a house, we'd have the house. And then it would open on what most of us would call the master shot. Master shot will take us through most of the scene, and we'll be able to see the entire scene of everything that's happening between the two characters. Then the second shot that we want to focus on is the reactions of the characters between them. So if you have one character and they're like, no, and they have this reaction on their face, then you would have a close-up shot of that character, kind of similarly to how my face is framed currently and what you see here. This would be more of a medium close-up, because my medium close-up is showing my shoulders. And that's important if you need to show something that happens from the arms up, possibly in the scene. But if you really wanted to just see the eyes, then you would get even closer, like, what? And then you can get to extreme close-ups, which I'm sure you've all seen in different shows and media, to really emphasize that drama between the two characters or the reaction, right? And then, of course, we need the reaction of the other character. So we're going to have a close-up on that character. And in the end, we basically are going to try to pick the best shots, the best angles, best moments and timing of the two characters and build the timeline through the shots that we have. So we're going to edit the 3 different shots together to really create a strong scene. There's tons of other kinds of angles, tons of other kinds of shots, but for the sake of simplicity and being able to do this with a Chromebook too, and keep a scene really simple, we are going to focus on those 3 shots. There's also one more shot that I would like to emphasize and let everybody know. If, for instance, there's an object or something, like they pick up their glasses or they have a crack in their glasses and you want to show a close-up on the glasses, we have a shot that's close-ups of inanimate objects. Those are called insert shots. Okay? So sometimes we need to also have an insert close-up of something between the two characters that might be the source of our conflict, right? So that is pretty much where our goals are today. In this timeline, you see that I suggest wevideo.com, which we're going to talk a little bit briefly about, but that's one platform that works great with Chromebooks. It works great on any other computer platform, and it's all online. So you could actually share the footage with your teammates and edit together. It's pretty neat. All right, let's get started. First, we have to figure out our location, okay? So I want you to watch this scene because I know this is going to be kind of a lot to take in, but I want you to see what I mean by a scene. Pay attention. Where do you think this scene is taking place? Who is in the scene? Why are they talking to each other? What's the source of the conflict, right? What's the drama between them? And then ultimately, because of that conflict or the drama or whatever's happening, what's happening because of that? So pay attention to their actions. What are they doing? Okay, here we go.
I know. And then our Christmas break was cool. I can't believe Grandma took us to go snowboarding.
Grandma was cool, but snow was even cooler. It's the first time I've seen snow.
After school, we should play soccer.
No, I want to jump on a trampoline.
Well, come on, Gabriel. Soccer's so much fun.
But I like the trampoline. We can jump all day.
Oh, look, there's G. Let's go catch up with him.
Okay, So a scene can be really short, but it told us so much, right? First, where was it taking place? Seems like it was taking place outside of a school, right? I don't know if anyone's unmiked or if we're going to take questions or answers, but just letting everybody know, you're welcome to share and interact with this workshop through our chat. I can see you in the chat. You can add answers or to any of the questions that I contribute, and or send me a reaction, and then I'll know kind of what you're thinking. All right, awesome, yay. Okay, so basically this scene the students decided was actually the opening scene of the movie, and they had to teach people where and who these students were. I don't know if you picked up on it, but they're brothers. Okay, so the relationship between the two characters, that's why they were talking about grandma in the beginning, because everybody understood that they both have the same grandma. But I don't know if the words quite worked out, that you could hear it, because I kind of cut it. Hey. So basically, if we could, yeah, they were cousins. It could be cousins. Yes, excellent. So basically what happens is they are walking to school. So how do you establish that? You do a shot outside of their school. So our location that they started with was the sidewalk outside of their school. So in a script, this would be delineated by EXT, or exterior, sidewalk, school sidewalk, exterior of the name of their school. They could come up with a name. And then, is it nighttime? No, it's nice and bright out, right? So it's daytime. So exterior, Henninger, outside of school, daytime, So that really just kind of helps people understand where it's taking place. And then, really important in a script, we have to say what's happening as we see it. So they were walking. No, they are walking, or the two brothers are walking, so that, or he is walking, so that, or he walks, so that it's present active, so that we can see as we're reading what's happening in front of us. Even if it was a flashback, it would still be is, because it needs to be in the present active to really picture what's happening. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Polo.
What I was going to say is, as you are looking at the tone of your film, you need to do, this is what the reason of making sure that if your scene is going to be a dramatic moment, or if it's a comedic moment, as you can see that this is like the before, right? So you're setting up a tone. They're relaxed. They're going to school in the morning. They're kind of reminiscing. There's a little bit like, this was really great. That's going to help your inciting incident be much more powerful. So when you're writing that scene, think about the type of film you're making, the genre, right? And what the setup is for. At the same time, you're thinking about the tone of that moment. Because what that'll do is it'll help your director and your actors understand what they're supposed to be doing. And that's very, very critical. Otherwise, what's going to happen is people will get confused. Well, I thought they were just going to whatever, and you want to minimize that by being very clear about the feeling of that moment.
Yes, that's a great point, Mr. Polo. You want to make sure that this is genre specific as well. And our choices that we make everything more clear. So in this case, it's a sci-fi. You can already see that the coloring isn't quite like warm and saturated. It's a little bit more on the darker greens and gritty, kind of like palish colors, because, and if anyone else has guessed it already, this is a zombie film. So this was a sci-fi film that they came up with where zombies attack their school. But who is in the scene, and we kind of talked about that. We also talked about the relationship between the two characters is very important, because it's, of course, this movie is called Brotherly Love. So it's all about the relationship between the two brothers and how that develops, or how it's tested by this movie. But this opening scene really establishes their relationship. They have a kind of fun rapport with each other, and that they're very tight. Now, there wasn't really a strong conflict that necessarily started coming out, but there was a little bit of a power struggle. Okay, you notice the one brother wanted to play on the trampoline, the other brother was like, "No, let's play soccer," right? And then one kind of bosses the other around a lot, and they're testing each other's boundaries in the scene, sort of. So it's really just walking to school. They're so into their argument that they don't even kind of notice that school's kind of empty. Normally there's a lot of people walking into school and they didn't even notice it. So they kind of walked into a trap in some ways. And so what's happening? We're seeing them walk to school. That's normal action. We see them round the corner and they see a friend, right? So they run into a friend. So that's really what's happening. So we're going to move. We have to write all of that in a script so that our readers or those that are going to be making the film can see exactly what we see in a final version that they're going to film. So here we go. Let me move to the next one. So that's an idea of a scene. It starts on one part, like it starts outside the school. The minute that they left the outside of the school and went to go to the playground of their school, that's a change in location. And generally, the rule of thumb is if you're moving from one location to another location, that's the end of the scene. Okay. Now, some people can also argue if the scene stays in one location, but the characters are leaving the location, that is also the end of the scene. And in this case, our characters went from in the front of the school to leaving, right? So that was the end of the scene for now. So where is our scene going to take place? The scene that we're coming up with. I'm ready to take suggestions. First thing that comes to mind. Okay, we have a winner. Thank you, Violet. Miss Woods, thank you so much. Yes, it's going to be outside in a park. Excellent. So to write that in a script, we are going to look at this format. Just compare a little bit here. Notice the differences. Notice how one is written versus the other. Interior, inside, exterior, outside. Okay. Then you have the location. So in this case, right now, it's the park. We don't know if it's a specific park yet. Outside in a park. Okay. We're not sure which park exactly, but it will be exterior, park. Is it nighttime? Is it daytime? Probably daytime's easier. Oh, nighttime. Okay. So we are doing exterior, park, nighttime. So already our brains are starting to go, who would be in a park at night? What's happening? So now I want everybody to, I'm going to go to this next slide. Let's have a challenge. All right. So think about people you know. I'll give you all a chance to kind of think about people you know first. I know sometimes it's fun to like imagine other characters or characters we've seen in movies, but for the sake of our writing, sometimes we don't realize, but we really do need to understand the characters that we're writing for. The last thing you want to do is write caricatures, assumptions of characters, especially when we start putting our characters in really tough situations. We want to know them inside and out to be able to make the decisions that would be realistic for them.
Yeah, if I may.
Go ahead.
Here's something to think about. There is a book that, as a writer, multiple people told me at the beginning, you need to read The Poetics, which is a book written, a little bit after I was born 2,000 years ago. And what it is that it tells you something that's very basic, and that is there's the action idea, right? So at that time, idea was the feelings. So if you think about it this way, if you see or hear something, you're going to feel something, and you're going to react or you're going to respond. So when you're looking at your characters, someone who's going to react is probably someone who has no idea what's happening, and they're going to go back to their experiences, and they're going to just react in a way that they feel are safer, right? If they're going to respond, this is the moment that a person has probably had new information. They're beginning to understand the situation that they're in, or they've experienced this in the past and they know what to do. So when you look at the character arc, again, you feel something because you either hear or you see something, and you're going to either react. Your characters are either going to react because they have no understanding, or they're going to be actually going to respond to it. That's where like the older person, oh, I've been through this, kind of makes some choices.
So, Mr. Polo, I think you've inspired some real bantered conversation going on in our chat. I don't know if everyone can see, but now we're developing it to a water park, it seems, at night.
If you think about this, how would a teen who feels threatened in a water park feel, especially if they don't know how to swim?
Oh, Mr. Polo, you're jumping ahead to the conflict.
Guys.
Yeah. So, okay. So hold on. We've got it. We've got characters now that we're familiar with. So we're talking teenagers, I believe. That's where
so Annie actually put something in there that's very interesting, which is that creepy. So is this like a horror film, or what's happening here? Enrique, they should have broke in. Dang, Enrique, come on. Exterior water park. Okay, they bully some kid. All right. Okay, so it's at night. Did they bring the kid there, or the kid was trying to cross through a space, and the place was locked? What happened? They should have broken just to go meet up with someone. Okay, so that could be. All right, so there's a little chill moment there that James is describing, but Annie is now describing something that they didn't expect, right? So if these kids decide to bully some kind of kid, what is it? One of the kids that was with them, and they invited him to come in without, because they had the idea to bully him, or this is something that the kid did that they realized that he was there, and throw the kid in the pool, and they look. So they lured the kid in. So is the kid feeling like part of the group, or just a new kid come from somewhere? Is it that the kids are kind of evil and they do this to new kids, or is this like a revenge of some type?
Okay, let's give him a second to think. While we do that,
Revenge is
okay, I'm hold on. What we're doing right now is we are working on the descriptions of the two main characters in this scene. So remember, we are coming up with a very big concept that's kind of cool, where it's like it could be a whole movie, right? It could be a horror movie, it could be an action drama movie, coming of age story, all from this idea of a water park at night. Awesome.
Yeah.
But we're focusing now on that one scene where a character enters a location and exits a location. Okay. So first, character one. Look at what we have. Hold on. Sorry, everybody. Look at what we have going on here, right? We have character one, character two. We have to come up with a name for both right away, and we need to know who they are. And most important, what is the relationship between the two characters? That's very important. Okay. Pool monster. Horror. Okay.
Here's the thing that's happening. I want to point this out to you guys. You're creating a very small segment. Kid says something, laughs at somebody, they grab him, they throw him on the pool, and he drowns. We need a lot more than that. That's like a very momentary space that we need to do a little bit of a background in, which is that, okay, this is not, we want to develop it into a story so that it doesn't become something that just happened and it's over with. And also, think about it. If the kid drowns, that's it. What about?
No, that could be the beginning of a bigger movie, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, it's a moment in time. So, what's character one's name? Let's just have a name. Dan.
All right. There's Dan or Kyle.
Dan.
Flannery. Oh, that sounds more like a British horror story.
Alexis. Okay. Now, around roughly what age are they? If we were doing a casting for them, what age would we be looking for here?
Yeah, we don't want to get sued by anybody, Giovanni, so Jenny Rivera might not be a good option.
16 to 17? 16, 17? It's a very specific. If you do 13 to 14, then there's different things.
You have at 13 or 14, you're looking at a middle school kids who's maybe brought into with the high school kids. At 17, you're looking at a kid who is about to graduate from high school. So you have to think about it this way. When you have a number for a kid, you have to, and it's a high school based story, you have to understand that there are different situations that they're in. At an 11th grader doesn't know what a 12th grader is going through, but a 12th grader does know what an 11th grader is going through, right? And then
I said we do maybe 16 to 17. That would justify like one of them being able to drive there, maybe, because it's at night. How did they get there? Did they walk in there? That was the gut suggestion. 16, 17. Or we have, like Mr. Pole's kind of alluding, because someone said bullying in the beginning. Maybe you have like a 13-year-old that wants to like be with the cool kids or the older kids, and they are being pulled along with the 16, 17-year-old. Or you have a 25-year-old with a younger kid, but that's it's weird. Also, remember, we're writing from who we know and what we know, right? Yeah. So if you yourself are only 18 or you yourself are only 17, it is going to be harder. It's not impossible, but it is going to be harder for you to write from the perspective of a 25-year-old, because you haven't lived the life of a 25-year-old. So you would have to kind of ask around, do some research. And then for this very quick turnaround challenge, we're trying to write from the perspectives that we know. So that's why we're saying maybe 16, 17 for this challenge. Okay, so let's do 16, 17. Is one older than the other? One should be older. Okay. So I have Dan and Kyle right now. Does anybody have any idea as far as like, for sure it should be two guys? Should it be a guy, girl? I mean, that's a whole different dynamic. Two guys. Okay, we're sticking with the two guys. And now, okay, so older brother, younger brother? That's interesting. So yes, now we're starting to get into how do they know each other? Childhood friends or brothers?
Or they could be stepbrothers and there's some kind of animosity between them. I mean, not that I've experienced that. I'm just throwing it out there.
All right, we're gonna go with the stepbrother brother because that kind of mixes the. That's kind of like a combination of the two suggestions, so that's kind of neat. Notice we're doing this kind of quickly on purpose. We want to get the first gut reaction that we have for this scene, for this particular challenge. First thing that comes to mind, first thing that can kind of make this scene work. Now, notice on the character descriptions, scene character 1, character 2, there's a very specific question there. One is motive goal, and the other very important specific question is the flaw. And Mr. Polo alluded to it a little earlier. But what if, for instance, one of them had a massive flaw of not being able to swim? I wouldn't necessarily say flaw is negative. It's just something that is, it either makes the person kind of like their kryptonite, right? Something that just gets in the way for them. So yeah, a flaw could also be jealousy. Could be the fact that the person is overwhelmingly strong. Like you like think of Hercules when he was young, like he was awkward and he was strong and people kind of thought that was weird and he couldn't control it, right? But then in the other direction, somebody like Superman who a literal flaw where he has kryptonite that makes him sick or he can't fight because when he gets faced with that. So you have to find the thing that the person for whatever reason is kind of broken, a little brokenness, so that they're able to navigate in the scene around it. So definitely maybe the hidden flaw of the older bully is that he can't swim, like go against type. Because a lot of people said one of them can't swim. That's one of the suggestions. Okay, can't swim. And what would be the motive or the goal of the older brother then if he can't swim to take his younger brother to a water park to kill the little brother? Okay, 20 toes out of spite.
Is it out of spite to the brother, or is it out of spite to the parent of that stepbrother?
Okay. Does the younger brother know that he can't swim? We're torn 50-50 on this one. Okay, so then no. He doesn't know. So no.
So the brother that throws him in the water thinks that the younger brother can swim? Is that, just to clarify? Annie's running with this. Very nice, Annie.
Like it. I think we're getting ready for our script template. We're going to get ready to start writing.
All right. I think, yeah. So what is important about something like this is that you really have to understand what is going to happen, and remember, lights, camera, action is what we're going to see. So what we see is what we're going to feel. And if just like when you guys meet some of your friends and they're acting a little different, and you're like, I wonder what's going on because something has changed, right? It's something that we have to see in the script also. Otherwise, what's going to happen, we're going to get ambushed if they're together at the pool, they're with friends, they grab the kid, throw him on the water, blah, 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 we're going to assume the worst. There's no real story.
That's okay. We just switched genres too. If you go away from horror or away from drama,
Listen,
KK's got a interesting twist on the genre to more of a sci-fi fantasy.
oh, Annie's not happy about this. Is that what it is? Is that the what know about?
Yeah. So it's more on the side of like that one is tricking the other brother and they're twins and it's a secret and he's a shapeshifter. So we're going into the other
So
realm.
this is the beauty
It's important to choose the genre, right, Mr. Polo? Yeah.
and this is the beauty about doing this. You guys can all have the first ideas together, and then eventually you all come up with completely different story ideas and scripts based on what you guys are enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
What it is that you guys really prefer. And that's why you have to understand what it is that you enjoy in order to create that for yourselves.
For our script purposes, one of the ways to organize ourselves is you can write the character name in all caps and then write out the description by writing age, what's their age, and very important facts, only the very important facts, so that an actor playing, think of yourself as the actor now playing that part. What do you need to know about the character in order to portray the character correctly? For the older brother or the twin, or however you start to write your story now, the older one or perceived to be older one, stronger one, has to know that. So physically, we're describing them as bigger, stronger. And then we're also going to be describing them has a secret, right? Has a secret that they can't swim. But he's also possibly hot-tempered, which is what provokes him, and a little bit reckless. Maybe that's what provokes him to bring his younger brother to this water park at night to like scare him, because you all said out of spite. He knows that the younger brother is the actual biological son of the two parents, and the older brother is the stepbrother, and he feels very jealous. So we're starting to write all of that into our character description, and it all culminates in this argument that happens to be by this creepy pool at night that just so happens that maybe they start wrestling. I'm just thinking in action now because of the conflict, and they start pushing each other, and the younger brother uncharacteristically ends up pushing the older brother enough, and the older brother slips in his own trap and falls into the pool. And that is where the big reveal happens that he can't swim. And now the younger brother has to make a choice, right? The younger brother has to go, do I save this guy or do I live my life without him? Like, he's now, he could totally say this was an accident. He brought me here. I mean, we just went 0 to 60 very quickly. And imagine if this was the beginning of your movie.
Yeah,
right?
I know what you've seen the advertising for. I Know What You Did Last Summer, right? And so you're setting up a process of story ideas that can expand as you think about what could happen next.
Yeah, that's and judging by your reactions, this is you want to be excited about what you write about, right? You don't want to be stuck thinking about like, oh, these characters are such a drag. You want to put something in there that you're excited about that's going to motivate you to keep writing, to keep filming on days that are really hard. Yeah. And it all started because we figured out pretty quickly who these characters were, so they took shape in your mind. I guarantee all of you picture them right now. You're picturing these characters. We did that in like less than 5 to maybe 10 minutes. You've already got this scene in your head. I'm picturing it. I can see it happening. I think I even know where I might film it. Like, so that's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Violet. So little brother becomes a serial murderer. That's kind of on the nose. What if the little brother becomes a priest because he feels so bad about what happened, and that's the challenge in his life. He doesn't want to tell anybody because he's going to go to jail, but he knows what happened. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, it can lead to a series of bigger bumps in the road for him because now he's holding on to this horrible secret. right? It doesn't necessarily mean he goes and starts killing people, unless this is the origin story of a horror movie. Like, you know, that's
or even if you're making this into a drama later on, it means that gentleman, you know, somehow we don't know what happens, or like 30 years later, he's a priest at a church, whatever, and then eventually someone shows up, one of the kids that was who's now his age, and he was one of the people that saw what happened, and now we have a huge conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these are so when you're developing ideas, the way that you guys have been writing, and I appreciate that, is those are things that you should be writing in your notebooks. And you have to think about why is it that you are kind of going that way? Because that's how you create stories and ideas. And without that, you don't have a film, guys. You know, the whole idea of let's just do this really fast, that's a video clip. That's not a film.
So we're going to start talking a little bit now, because we're getting close to the end of the workshop already, but we want to also maybe write out the scene as best we can. Can we figure out what they say to each other? Now, notice in the script, dialogue is written in the center. Okay? That is because if I'm playing the part of Dan or Alex or Kyle, whatever we create as the actor, my eyes need to go right to the center of the page and know exactly what I'm supposed to say. Right? I don't want to be reading through a bunch of other stuff and not knowing what to say. Stuff written on the left margin, which we'll go over in a second, is the actions, the descriptions of things that are happening. They start to tussle, one trips. Like, all of that is also very important to see on the page so that you can visualize this. But it's also important that it's written in the correct format. Why? Because they've studied the format enough that we can actually now measure out eighths of a page and know how long this would take to do different setups. So now we're getting into like the production side of this. You're starting to figure out if this part of the page to this part of the page is taking place here in front of the pool in this angle, and then I need another angle of the foot tripping, or I need another angle of him falling into the pool. All of those are different setups, and they all have different pacings on screen. So it's very important that we keep our format pretty close.
And also, when you're writing these things about, don't get caught up in the fights. Like, you're not gonna recreate an Avengers fight. Those things take forever. Don't get to the point that you're so focused on, you know, recreating the fight on Raging Bull that you ignore the actual story, because you will have a challenge with that.
But that's why we want to know what they are about and what they're talking about first. Think of yourself as an audience member as well. If you're watching this scene unfold and they just start fighting, you don't care about the characters, right? You're like, I don't care if either one goes in the water, whatever, just get off my screen, right? So we need to know what starts the conversation. Where are they exactly? I pictured right in front of the pool because we want to cut to the chase for the sake of our exercise where they're at the scene. But again, let's go back to the top. Now we started out exterior water park night, but maybe now it's exterior water park pool night. What exactly do we want? And then who says the first words? What's the first action? What happens?
That's from you guys. Who is the first person that speaks?
Let's see if I can show you guys some.
Dan. So is that the name of that character, Dan?
Yeah, Dan, the older brother. Cool. Okay, so you got the older brother.
What does he say?
Dan says.
So what? Ron, what does he say? What does Dan say to his little brother?
Maybe before they say something, we have to have an action. If you can see my screen, what I'm projecting right now is essentially what the script format would be. And if you look and see add any additional action of what is going on in the scene. So we could describe a little bit first where they are and what they're doing. Maybe the older brother is trying to scare the younger brother and he's leading him through the park. Right? He's leading them through the park. The older brother's leading them through the park. Younger brother through the park. And but before he starts punching, remember, we don't know why he's mad at him or what's going on. So we need a little bit more context between the two characters. Maybe it's something as simple as like, yo, you could have backed me up back there. Like, or maybe it's a little more subtle where he's like, you know, mom always chooses you, or dad always gives you the keys. Why? You know, I don't know. We have to know right away that they're brothers. We have to know right away that they, you know, had some kind of conflict that happened before they got there that motivated the older brother to do this to his younger brother. You're always the one who gets off the hook. Why? Beautiful. Enrique, golden line right there. You're always the one who gets off the hook. Why? Okay.
And it actually really fits well with someone who wrote something that the older brother gets a text, or somebody gets a text. That could be that. And we don't really have to know what, but all we know is that there's resentfulness there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Instead of the younger brother, Piper, it might be better that the older brother gets a text and we don't know what it says, but obviously something that goes to, you know, that he looks up at his little brother. It's like, you always get off the hook. Why? Does that make sense?
Now, going back to understanding our characters, we didn't really define the flaw of the younger brother. So maybe he's a little bit too believing. Maybe he's a little too trusting.
Or maybe because the older brother feels like
younger brother is spoiled. I like it. Younger brother is spoiled. Mm-hmm. Okay. That would make sense, right? He's the beloved brother. He's a spoiled brat. He doesn't care. So if he's a spoiled brat and he's kind of already upset with his brother, or maybe he's just indifferent, what would his answer be to his older brother?
Yeah, Annie, but before we get there, we got a lot of story to cover, kiddo.
Yeah. Because I'm just better. Woo! Enrique, a little dialogue writer right now. Because I'm just better.
That's what a bratty kid would say, right?
Because I'm just better.
Yeah, so right there, Caitlin, that would be the action happening. You know, Dan and I forgot what the name of the little kid, the brothers, the younger brother, Dan and so are walking through the park.
So you can try this from where you are. This is more of like a visual. If you're more of a visual person, you can draw it out like a comic book, right? If you visualize it, you can write the dialogue out like I had in the middle, just the dialogue, focusing on what they say to each other. If the actions and everything is a little bit too much. Oh, great, James. Okay. No, that's awesome. Yeah. And Annie says, I'm good at writing scripts and you guys are going to make, okay. I get my Black Phone too. Oh, okay.
I haven't seen Black Phone once, so there you go.
I like it. And these are just some tools to help you guys if you're more visual, or if some of you want to be an actor, you could do what's called improv, where you improv the scene out. You tell another actor, like, this is who you are. You're the younger brother and I'm the older brother. and you can actually film yourself in the situation and see what you say to each other. These are our first two lines. You know, you're always the one who gets off the hook. Why? And then the younger brother who spoils, like, because I'm just better. And then you just keep going at it. Like, well, what else comes to mind? What pops into your head? And if that's recorded, then you can go back and pick out the lines that you feel really escalate the drama. Because remember, we have to figure out why they get physical. Does he threaten him? Does it get to the point where they're yelling at each other and one tries to go and cover the mouth of the other, like, quiet, you know? And then that's what causes the slip, where he pushes him enough to fall. That's it. It's a process. Writing can be hard sometimes, but we've got to find the fun in it. We've got to find the thing that keeps us motivated to discover more about these characters. And I like putting characters in tough situations because that gives me the challenge of discovering what choices they would make, right? So so they kind of like he steps on him, maybe steps on his foot. Older brother could say after, because I'm better, you're such a spoiled brat.
You're elevating the stakes. And somebody said something earlier that I want to address really fast.
Whatever, not like you care anyways, even if mom and dad love you. It's what the older brother would say. Whatever, not like you care anyways, even if mom and dad love you. So remember, saying you're a spoiled brat, that's subtext. So spoiled brat is like the obvious, right? Everybody's like, oh, he's such a spoiled brat. Like the viewer is thinking that. So we wouldn't necessarily want the characters to literally say it, because then the viewer's like, yeah, I know he's a spoiled brat. Everybody can tell. Why is the writer telling me that? Right? So that's one thing to remember, is we want to avoid what's called on the nose writing. Yeah. Could be, but again, we're trying to stay away from the obvious. Think about how you would react to that situation if someone called you a spoiled brat, or just because I'm a better brother. Remember, Dan is a little probably insecure about the fact that he's in a water park and he can't swim. So he's trying to puff himself up and be more confident. Maybe he punches him, like, shut up, you know, or like, shut your mouth.
So,
or not here, you're not spoiled. You know, something.
Yeah.
Not here. I'm better than you. You know, whatever.
The physicality on your story should not be overblown. You know, the whole tension that you can actually have is both of them holding back until there is no other option. So the physicality of your characters to be when there's no way that they can say anything. They don't have anything else to say, so they push or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a bunch of things, just a couple of little things.
So we didn't quite get to filming. These are some of the shots, but I want to give everybody access to our screenplay template. You can scan the QR code here, so you get access to our screenplay template that you can continue writing this scene together at home, or for a class exercise. If you want to write your own scene out, you can use the screenplay template. It's a Google Doc. And the other QR code is to learn more about our program. And hey, maybe we could work together someday in filming a scene like this. So I'll just make sure everybody is able to scan this. Everybody has a chance to kind of load it. All right. And with the remaining time, I'm going to do a quick little sharing of this tab to show you guys kind of how I would write out the script, just so you can get started on it. We decided it would be exterior, all caps, exterior, water park, pool, and not day. We're going to switch it to night. Now remember, there's lots of screenplay programs out there. Final Draft is industry standard. If you have access to Final Draft, I recommend you use that. But this one is just a free, quick Google Doc template that we're offering so that you can do this at home even if you don't have that subscription. We already kind of came up with our character names. We have Dan, and then the other one was Alex, I believe. Okay, and Dan is pushing Alex through the water park in an attempt to scare him. Something very basic. That's for you guys to kind of get started. And then you would just go to the middle and you can switch this to Dan. Dan says the classic line from Enrique, "You are always the one who gets off the hook." Bye. Okay. And I would probably just like throw that one there a little bit. And then we have Alex say, "Because I'm just better. Because I'm just better." And then you can kind of develop the script a little bit more. Maybe there's an action here instead of a character. So you just can go back. And Dan throws a punch. Or however you want to write your action. And that's essentially what happens is you just build your script out based off of the whole entire significance of what we created. It's all centered around that motive, all centered around that conflict of the two characters. And it was very nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a real fun time. One more time, I'll put that QR code up there for you guys if you want the script. I had a lot of fun. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.